The most important meal of the day, second breakfast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth alongside Phil Duvall. Say hi, Phil.
You know, I don't want to because right before we started filming, you were mean to me. And I don't want to say hi. I don't want to say hi to you, and I don't want to say hi to them.
Second Breakfast Nation, it's true. I was not my normal cuddly self with a caramel interior. I wasn't.
I don't want to air dirty laundry in public, but
I was a jerk.
But Andy and I have dirty laundry. I'm just letting you know. I'm just going to tell you that, and I'm just right now by saying that it's just airing it out, shedding a little light on the reality of our relationship. Andy, I got to tell you, despite your you-ness, I have to tell you that I'm so excited for this podcast because we get to talk about. Because here's the deal, Halloween's coming up.
It's true,
and I'm not going to lie to you. I don't give a damn. Halloween is not because I'm a grown-up, and I'm a grown-up on a diet. So what I wear doesn't matter. I'm married, so what other women wear doesn't matter. I'm not gonna have any candy.
Right.
And I actually take Lewis Black's attitude about this whole thing. Lewis Black says Halloween is a perfect holiday for a child because it's the one day a year they get to be whatever they want to be. He goes, but when you're an adult, if you want to wear a Superman costume, just wear a Superman costume. You're an adult. You do what you want. It might make you crazy, but at least you're you. Like, who cares?
Yes.
And I sort of feel that way. That being said, my wife is making an amazing. We're going to be Monsters Inc. for Monsters Incorporated for Halloween. My little daughter's going to be Boo. And she's made me a Sully outfit that's totally wearable. And she's going to be Mike Wazowski. She's got a big pregnant belly, and she's going to have the eye from Mike Wazowski. And so we're getting in the Halloween spirit. And you and I, we talked about zombies in the last episode. This episode, we're going to talk some more about, horrorific things. I guess I could have just said horrific. But horrorific things. So I'm excited for this conversation, and I'm excited to share it with the people.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting in the mood. The next week, we're just going to talk about terrible, awful things.
I can't wait. I
know.
It's my favorite thing, really.
To be terrible and awful.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, I except for the diet part of it, which of course I am on as well. The other part of being an adult, if you want to buy 17 jumbo-sized bags of candy and sit in front of a television and eat it all in one sitting, you can do that.
Here's how I know that's true.
I know it's true for the same reason. Please, go ahead.
Because I've done it.
Amen,
now,
brother.
Here's the best part, though. You're going to find this out if you haven't already. Have you lived in a place where you're like, well, I'm an adult, I better get a bunch of Halloween candy for the kids that trick or treat?
Yes.
And then
Nobody comes.
Yep. I'm going to eat that candy.
Yeah, right. There are children. There are starving children in China that could have had that candy.
I'll crush a bag.
Oh.
Of like, and it's no mistake that when we get trick or treating candy for trick or treaters, that we get candy that we like.
Oh, totally. Right. Here's the other thing. Not only would I do that with a bag of candy, just crush a bag of candy, I shop at Costco. Right. Right?
You're a genius.
Right?
Right.
Fun size? I'll show you fun size. Fun size is the size of my entire body filled with Butterfingers.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yes.
Did you know that Butterfinger, first of all, I hadn't had a Butterfinger until a couple years ago.
That's weird.
It is, especially since I think I had one when I was a kid once and I didn't like it for whatever reason.
Sure.
But then I had it as an adult and I was like, oh my God, this is delicious. Now, I don't know if I could eat a whole bar of it all by itself. But the fun size,
Butterfinger, yes,
it's like destined to be fun size.
Yes, like I can eat an entire Butterfinger, although I can't remember last time I did, and I have no idea when the next time I will be. But I agree with you. Having even thinking and feeling that, I agree with you. There's something truly special about the chocolate to Butterfinger ratio.
This is very important. I
yes.
just had they just started making little Kit Kat bits.
Uh-huh.
They're not as good.
Are they not? Okay.
The appropriate size for the Kit Kat is the original size, or the
Okay.
fun size actually works really well.
Sure.
But this
But
goes.
the fun size is it's only a little bit shorter.
It's almost identical.
It's just 2 instead
I'll
of
tell
4.
you. I'll tell you.
Right.
People are. There are people who, while we're talking about this, are going to be like, "I know exactly what they mean," and other people who are like, "Really? This is that? Look, you don't get the shape that I am without caring deeply about candy." Okay, it took me a long. Like people are like, how, like you watch the guys. They talk about how the guys got in shape for 300.
Right.
Like, oh, it took me 6 months of hard work to do that. Look, it took me 34 years to look like this. I have
That's
worked
right.
hard on this body.
Right.
That's why this diet's going to be such a pain because let's be honest.
Yeah, right. Putting work in every day.
Every
on
day.
This shape on this chassis.
I could have done other things and chosen not to eat like garbage, and I would have a totally different body. But no, I committed to a life of food addiction, and I look like this for a reason.
Phil, where would we be?
Who would I be? The reason I bring that up. So what I want to say is this is true, and you know it. Every candy has an ideal size.
It's true.
The Snickers bar, as it is perfect.
Yes.
The fun size is pretty great.
Yeah, it's true,
I'll
but
be
it
honest.
isn't as good.
Nope.
Yes.
The mini size becomes special in its own way, but needs to be balanced out with something else. If you're gonna have the Snickers mini size,
Okay.
you need to have some Swedish fish there, the large ones, and you balance and you go back and forth, and you can do that all night long. I'm just telling you. Just trust me.
You know what this means when I say this, Phil. I don't think I have ever loved you more than I love you right now. This second. The
Butterfinger belongs in the fun size. Now, are you
Yeah,
ready for
it
this?
does.
And I believe this.
Please.
Oh, so they started making peanut butter cup minis.
Sure. No.
Nope.
Yeah,
No.
I have had them because they were
Peanut
around
butter
before I started the diet. Yeah,
the peanut butter cup they give you like individually wrapped
Mm-hmm.
is glorious.
Yes.
The regular original peanut butter cup is fantastic.
Yes.
But nothing beats the special holiday peanut butter Easter egg, Christmas tree, pumpkin, heart.
See.
It's so much peanut butter. It works.
Here is my problem with those. The taste is great, but because the peanut butter is so creamy,
Yep.
I like the crunch that you get with the structure of the peanut butter cup shape that you don't really get with like the egg. Can I tell you something?
Tell me.
The big cup is like I start speaking in tongues and letting snakes bite me. It's so tasty. It's like
You like that, huh?
Oh.
I don't know that I've ever had the big cup. Try the big cup.
Phil.
So you'd prefer more chocolate, it sounds like.
It isn't it. No, because there's a lot of peanut butter in that big cup.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. By the way, if you're wondering how this relates to movies, first off, we hate you. Second, concessions.
Thank you.
Right? It isn't. I'm not going to disagree with that because I do like the chocolate because peanut butter all on its own. I don't need to go to a cup for that.
Right.
But
I think it's funny, by the way. You just said if you're wondering what this has to do with movies, who are you? What are you doing watching us? And
right.
I don't hate you. I just shh.
Right.
Don't speak. Don't speak.
Don't speak.
You're not helping here.
It really is like I don't know. There's something about the ridges on the edge that I like. I like the classic.
Yep, I hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We need to move on, but it's been a lovely.
I know it's been a lovely
things that make me fat that I'm not eating right now. That's that category.
What is it? What is the word for a digression that starts something rather than interrupts in the middle of something? Pregression?
I think it's. I mean, that's. We'll just call it a prologue and move on.
Nice. Yeah.
Because prologues aren't necessarily or a preface. We just preface. It was a preface.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You know, if you don't see how this is related, I can't help you.
Or it's a dedication because we're dedicating all of this to all the Halloween candy we can't eat.
Ugh. Are you not going to have any Halloween candy?
Nope.
Ugh.
I just made myself sad. I might be crying throughout our podcast, but no, I'm not going to have any Halloween candy.
Okay, but you know what? That makes me feel better. Solidarity, brother.
Absolutely.
But next year, I'm gonna eat all the Halloween candy.
Like all of it. Like no one else.
Stealing it from my daughter.
If you are hearing our voices right now, and even if you're not, you will not have any Halloween candy next year because Phil and I are going to take each 50% of the world's Halloween candy.
Oh my God.
Yes. I'm gonna lose whatever my number is, and I'm gonna gain it all back next Halloween. Just like in a night.
I think you and I need to spend next Halloween together.
Folks, you heard it here first. I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that. So, folks, in our second podcast of the week, traditionally, and we are slave to tradition. We tell you what's coming out this upcoming weekend that you should want to see, and the answer coming out. Getting terrible reviews, which just makes me sad. The Counselor.
Yeah.
It's just
our friend Daniel wrote just a scathing review of it today.
I haven't seen a good review of it.
Scathing.
It's true.
Hey, can I make an open letter to our friend film reviewer Daniel Carlson?
Please do.
It seems like you're only reviewing movies you don't like lately. You're good at writing. I'd love to see you talk about a movie you love. That's all. I don't know if it's like just the company he works for, they're only giving him the crappy movies.
Right.
In which case he needs to have a talk with the man in charge.
Yes.
But anyways, it's not getting good reviews. But how could it be bad with Javier Bardem looking the way he looks in that movie?
I know. Hey, man.
I actually had a huge realization today when I read Carlson's review, and then I went online and looked at Ridley Scott's filmography as a director.
Mm-hmm.
He's made exactly 3 movies that I loved. He's made over 30 movies. He's made exactly 3 that I loved.
Tell me.
You guess.
I don't know his filmography off the top of my head. I'm gonna go with Alien.
You're 1/3 of the way there. Alien.
Sure. Yep.
Black Hawk Down.
Nice.
Which is in my top 5 war movies.
Sure.
And Matchstick Men.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Those are literally the only 3 movies he's made that I loved.
Okay.
There are movies he's made that, obviously, Blade Runner is culturally important. He is visually astounding, but his movies, they drive me crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I expect them to be better than I do every time.
Don't love Thelma and Louise?
No, I don't hate it, but I don't love it.
That's fair. Have you seen the apparently 87-hour director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven?
No. That was a movie that I wanted to be amazing and wasn't.
Apparently the director's cut is amazing. I have actually not seen either, but Kingdom of Heaven director's cut has been like on my Netflix queue for like 5 years now.
I want that to be true. By the way, everybody, go look at a picture of Ridley Scott and then tell me that you don't think that Bryan Cranston should play him.
I'm looking at one now, and absolutely. He is the one who knocks. Okay. Yep. Next, coming out, a movie I will not be seeing, but you already know if you're seeing it. Jackass presents Bad Grandpa.
I got a text today from a friend of mine. We see movies together once every 3 years.
And this is the movie?
He texted me and said, "When are we seeing Bad Grandpa?"
Awesome.
So apparently I am, and I am, I'm a sucker. So
sure.
I care less what I see than who I see it with. So when one of my favorite people says, "Hey, when are we seeing this?" I'm like, "Guess I'm seeing Bad Grandpa."
And then a French film in limited release, Blue is the Warmest Color. It won the Palme d'Or at Cannes this year, which means it's certified hip, and that's unfair of me. I mean, the Cannes Film Festival.
No, but the Palme d'Or is a strange film festival. The Cannes Film Festival is a strange film festival.
Film festivals are strange film festivals.
But there are ones that you really get a sense that they are like Sundance. We all know what's coming out of Sundance by and large.
Sure.
And things like that.
Yeah.
And same with Tribeca even. There's things like that. Cannes is, come on, you just have no idea what they're thinking half the time.
That's fair. You're right. I want to move on. It's a fairly barren week. Because we haven't quite gotten into the because they kind of didn't release any horror movies this year. Is that weird? I can't think of just a ton of horror movies released during like The Conjuring and Insidious 2, but those were weeks ago.
And by the way, made by the same person.
It's true. Who is now working, as we speak, on Fast and the Furious 7. James Wan. Heck yeah, brother. So let's move on to the main topic of our convo today. Folks, is this a horror school? Is it a horror school, really? Because I didn't assign it to you. I'm gonna go with no. I'm gonna say no. It's not a horror school.
No, this is not a horror school. This is just Halloween.
All right, it's Halloween.
We're gearing up.
Yes. So we watched the movie The Woman in Black, which is a recent horror movie starring Harry Potter himself, Daniel Radcliffe, Kieran Hines. Is that how you say his name? And
Kieran.
Sweet.
Who is one of my favorite character actors living today.
He's great. He is great. Made by Hammer Films, which is a studio known for Christopher Lee as Dracula in like 80,000 low-budget movies in the 60s.
They're known for making low-budget gore flicks.
Yes. This is not super low budget,
Nope.
although it wasn't a huge budget film, and is not gory, and is their highest-grossing movie of all time. Even figuring for inflation, I believe.
Yeah.
So do with that information what you will. Phil, plot synopsis, if you would.
There is a young man, old enough to be a father of a child, but Daniel Radcliffe will always be a squeaky young man until he's 97, I believe, no matter what he does. And he is a recent widower.
Sure.
Which is a weird thing to call a male widow, because it sounds like he's the one who made someone a widow. It's a very strange decision to call males widowers. But anyways, he's a widower who is they're selling this house out in the country, and he is the person who has to go through the estate. This is set in like 1800s England. Mm-hmm. Like it's set in like England back before things existed, like they had cars but just barely. So I guess it was like turn of the century England, right? Turn of the century England, which for all my cracks about turn of the century movies, turn of the century England, way more interesting than turn of the century America. Like a billion times more interesting. Mm-hmm. Anyways, Daniel Radcliffe's character is enlisted to go look at this house and that his company is in charge of selling, and make sure to go through the recently deceased's papers and stuff. The person has died. This company owns the estate and is in charge of selling it. He's going to go and make sure everything's in order. He gets there. It's this huge castle out in the middle of a marsh that you can only get to when it's low tide. When it's high tide, the marsh rises and this castle's all by itself on an island. And of course the place is haunted. Clearly. And it's haunted it's haunted by it's haunted by the sister of the woman who just died, who owned the house. And it's haunted by this sister who went crazy and killed herself. She went crazy and killed herself after her son died because of her sister. It's very convoluted. Long story short, ghost story.
Crazy female ghost in a
crazy
house.
Female ghost in a black dress in a haunted house. And what she does, basically, come to find out, spoiler, I don't really care. She incites little children to kill themselves, so that all of the parents in the town will be without children, just like she is.
Yep. I
don't know. That's the plot, and I mean that's the movie. Don't really worry about anything else. That's the deal. But this movie relies. It's funny to me that this movie is a Hammer film because it relies so much on just being spooky. There's a whole lot of looking out the window and seeing someone watching you in the woods, and then looking away and looking back and they're gone. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of that. There's a ton of and then there's someone there but they're not really there. That's like so much of the movie is about the mood and about the feel, and not about the display of really almost, I think, any gore.
I can't think of any.
No.
I can't think of a single moment of gore.
Was that a helpful synopsis to get people caught up on this movie?
I think so.
Can you tell them why we're gonna listen to them?
Why we're gonna listen to who?
Or why we're going to talk about this movie? Why they're going to listen to us talk about this?
Because we're awesome. The end.
Okay.
Were you looking for something else besides we're awesome and we're smart and we like movies and we talk about them?
Nope.
Sweet. So folks, there's a great divide, a great schism, if you will, in horror movies. That isn't really a schism at all. It's just two sort of different ways of doing it. And it is, sort of mood and sort of dread and sort of atmospheric horror and the red stuff. A lot of gore, right? And that doesn't mean that one movie can't use both. The Exorcist comes immediately to mind. Most horror movies have at least a little bit of gore. Even something that you Phil might consider a really gory movie, like The Ruins. I don't consider that movie driven by the gore.
No, neither do I.
Yeah.
Neither do I.
Okay. I just heard it. Like I would guess I'd consider it a gory movie, but I don't think of it as a gory movie because it's so much about what's happening to them inside their head.
I just watched the most recent episode of Walking Dead, and a zombie fell through a roof and then was being suspended by his own entrails.
That's the other side of the coin.
It was a very gory episode, in fact.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yep.
This one guy gets up as a zombie and his entrails fall out completely. They love the entrails on this show.
Well,
they just love the entrails.
Well, because it's harder to have a head fall off, because you got to have a guy walking around.
Well, and I also think entrails, your head falls off and your head falls off.
Right.
It's over for you.
Entrails.
But entrails spilling out
yes.
is there's so much that's just spilling. And there's that sense of
That's right. And it also harkens back to lovely moments in Day of the Dead and Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
So yes. So that's fair. But the Woman in Black is I channeled the Dark
totally
Tower
different
series.
movie. Oh, I was thinking of Johnny Cash.
Nice, right. Walk the line. Woman in Black relies 99 or 100% on mood.
Yes.
And so it gets horror, and it creates horror, and it manufactures dread out of things like, camera movements down a darkened hallway and air blowing out candles and stuff like that. And it sounds silly. It sounds silly when I say it, and it's not. Look, this is not a great movie. No. So many times, Phil, and you've said this so many times, when I say something is just a solid movie, it sounds like an insult, right? This is not a great movie, but it is a solid horror movie, I think. You disagree?
I disagree, okay. And I don't want to, right? You know me.
Yeah.
The Conjuring was as solid about as solid as they come in terms of what you're talking about. Was The Conjuring a brilliant film? Nope. Was it a genre-defining film? Nope.
It was absolutely a better film than The Woman in Black. No question.
Here's my problem.
No quibble.
But I know what you're saying. It had all the pieces. It's a good plot.
Yes.
It's a well-told story for the most part.
It's well
shot.
Yep.
It looks. You are transported into a different world completely.
That manor with the rising tide, and it's.
But there are two things.
Setting.
There are two things I will say about it.
Okay.
That bothered me.
Please.
And and then we can get into the real talk of what I appreciated about it. But it seemed to me that the movie was doing whatever it had to do to get that guy in that situation.
It's awfully convenient. That's right.
Okay, we got to figure out a way to tell the story of this haunted house with this guy.
Yep.
And I wasn't sure why.
Yeah.
The second thing is, I never felt as if he was in any danger.
Interesting.
Because he's there in the haunted house with the ghost quite often. They're in the same room quite often.
Sure.
What it ends up being about is whether or not he can save other children from dying. But we don't find that out until almost 3/4 of the way into the movie. Sure. We don't really understand that we don't really understand that the Woman in Black is inciting children to kill themselves.
Right.
Until the beginning. The first scene is just creepy, eerie as anything was, with the three little girls, the three windows. My gosh.
Yes.
And it has genuinely creepy moments.
Yep.
But let me put it this way. If you see him they show this external shot, and he's looking out the window, and then all of a sudden it goes, and it shows the woman in black standing right behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Something's supposed to happen then.
Right.
Nothing happens. He's not actually under threat.
Yeah.
His life is actually never threatened in this movie, and in fact, in the end,
spoilers. It's fine.
Okay, yeah.
Spoilers.
In the end, when he dies,
it's not because she's trying to kill him.
Not at all. She's trying to make his life miserable.
Right.
Now that's an interesting idea, and you could talk about this movie the same lines. You could talk about this movie along the lines of you talk about Prisoners, in terms of the motivation of the villain, and that's interesting.
Right. Ooh, well said. I like that.
The idea of making other people punishing parents, but that this woman is trying to punish parents, and so that and the ending of this movie I thought was an interesting ending. The movie was never bad. I was never angry. I was spooked out by certain scenes.
Sure.
First of all, if you think that old-fashioned porcelain dolls are scary, this movie will terrify you.
It's true.
Because there are a billion of them. There are so many First of all, when did anyone not think those dolls were scary? I feel like people... First of all, these dolls were not bought at thrift shops. Like, I think horror movies are creating dolls to look scary and then be like, can you believe these old-fashioned dolls? No, there's no way a woman in 1900s England was going to give her child that doll. Why would you do that to your child? It's like people like clowns are scary. And it's like, yeah, the clowns you look at, like, a normal clown isn't scary. It can be kind of weird. It can be a lot of things. When you give the clown the Pennywise face from It, yeah, of course he's terrifying.
Stunningly, like, dragon teeth make a clown scary. It's unbelievable.
Right, who knew?
Balloons filled with blood.
Right, so yeah, you want to make a doll, like just kind of like, yeah, that's going to be terrifying.
Yeah.
Anyways, this movie has a lot of those.
That's right.
I think it gets the mood right, and I think that it gets this sense of eeriness and spookiness and just like, oh my gosh, if he could just, you get the sense of that, which I think is a really good thing to do in a horror movie. If he could just leave that place, that town, he'd be safe.
Yes.
I love that. I love that idea.
Yes.
Great horror movies give you this sense of, if I could just get from where I am, I'll be okay.
Go for it.
I was just, that desire may be stifled.
Right.
It may be not true.
Right.
But even in zombie movies where the whole world is taken over, there is a sense of like, if I can just find a haven. The desire is always to escape the horror.
Let's get to the Winchester. Absolutely. It's like the travelers in American
Werewolf in London. I was thinking that exact thing.
And it's like, look, guys, I'm sorry that your village is totally screwed because you're all gonna die and it's gonna be a werewolf that kills you.
Yep, and they kind of know it, and they kind of wish that you'd go. Like they're like, please leave.
Yes. And so I think that's really well said. I also want to point out, and it's not Oscar worthy or anything, but I think Daniel Radcliffe does a really nice job in this movie. I really do.
I mean, I think anytime we talk about Daniel Radcliffe for the next decade, it's going to be talking about how he's not Harry Potter anymore, and I think that's fine. That's just what happens. Yeah, but he's fine. He does a fine job. I had no problem seeing him in this role.
Right.
It is a little odd thinking him as a father of a 3-year-old or 5-year-old at that point, but the numbers match up. That's fine. It's fine. Right. You mentioned Kieran Hines. He played Caesar. He played Julius Caesar in the first season of Rome.
Okay.
And the first season of Rome is really uneven. But his performance, and I had not... British people know who he is, or snobs who watch BBC America know who he is from other things. I had never known who he was before, and I was like, wow, cast some guy I've never seen before as freaking Julius Caesar.
Sure.
Crushes it.
Yes.
And when they get to the Ides of March, it is heartbreaking. Yeah. And I don't know the Caesar story well enough. Like, I don't know how Shakespeare approaches it because I've actually never seen Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, believe it or not. Oh, okay. But because I'm not actually a big Shakespeare guy. But you see why they feel the need to kill him,
Right.
but you also see how heartbreaking it is for him that they would.
Yes.
Like, it's all there, and so much of it rests on can he pull it off? And Andy Roth, Kieran Hines pulls that stuff off hard.
I
He
exhibit
is.
no surprise.
What have you seen? What do you know him from?
I know him from he was in Road to Perdition. He's had a number of small roles, almost always as Russians, which is weird. He was Russian in The Sum of All Fears. He like at least
I think he's got a pouty face.
It's true. That's true.
I think pouty face. They don't ever put smiley face people as Russian.
I won't say Russian. I'll say European mainland, and he's not
Eastern European, right?
Yeah, he's Irish. He was in Munich. He was in In Bruges. He was great.
Yes. No, I'd already known him from Rome by that point.
Sure. He was in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which was lovely. He was Dumbledore's brother, Aberforth, in the last two Harry Potter movies.
Okay.
He's a guy that you would potentially recognize even if you couldn't place him. Like,
yep.
So I won't elevate him to that guy at this point because I think he's, especially for American audiences, he's just not well known enough even to be that guy. But
yeah.
But he's getting there.
And I think, well, for me, I can't call him that guy because my experience of him actually was first and foremost in a starring role.
Interesting.
And then now I see him in all these
yeah.
bit parts.
Sure.
Well, it's the same with Ian McShane. People in England knew Ian McShane before Deadwood.
Right.
I was introduced to him through Deadwood. He was given, I was thinking about him today. I was looking at his filmography today because I get so excited just thinking about him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, Andy, and I'm telling anyone who watches, and I know I talk about Deadwood too much, but his character, Al Swearingen, will be one of the greatest things you ever witness as a person who likes television and film. I'm not kidding. And so now, like, it's inconceivable to me that he's not just starring in a ton of stuff.
Sure.
But he is a character actor.
Right.
And so they put him in all these sort of supporting roles and all these supporting stuff, and he's a voice actor because his voice is amazing.
Yeah.
But, like, to me, it's like same with Kieran Hines. I'm like, what? You were Julius Caesar.
Right.
Like, you know, what are you doing as Russian number 2 in this movie? But
right.
anyways, whatever. I know what you mean exactly.
How great is Ian McShane as the bad guy in Kung Fu Panda?
Fantastic.
Just great.
Well, that's my point. His voice is perfect.
Oh, totally. Totally.
So, anyways, but we've gone off on a tangent here. Everyone is good. They're the only two recognizable actors in this movie.
That's true. That's right.
And everybody else in it is fine. I actually like that. I love seeing a movie where everyone's great. It's shot beautifully.
Yeah.
It looks, but I want to get into this. Like, gore, I watched something recently. Oh, we watched Dawn of the Dead remake.
Mm-hmm.
And the gore was for the sake of being able to say, look at what we've done.
Yes.
Look at this. Look how we made this work.
Mm-hmm. Here's the deal.
When do you see gore as effective, Andy?
I'm so glad you asked me that question. Gore is a tool. It is like anything else. It's like fire. It can keep you warm and save your life or burn you to death. Okay?
Yeah. So
it has to be deployed correctly. And if it is gore, I love how you just put it. What'd you say? Like look, see what we can do. Look at what we can do. That is, and it's not just gore. It's anything. It's Baz Luhrmann. You know what it is? Two people who move the camera in very deliberate ways. Baz Luhrmann and Alfonso Cuarón. Okay? Baz Luhrmann never met a camera movement he didn't like. But he's
like Michael Bay on meth.
Yes, it feels empty. It's like, oh, look at how jittery I can do things.
Yep.
And Alfonso Cuarón does these like 15-minute takes. But it's not just because like, oh, look at how much I can get the actors to concentrate. It
tells a story.
It tells a story in Children of Men.
And Woody Allen.
Things. Yes.
Woody Allen and Kubrick are two that I find really interesting.
Yes.
I mean, the obvious, one of the most obvious is Scorsese, but Woody Allen, he doesn't do a lot of close-ups. He likes to do established shots with two people, and he'll do close-ups. He'll do zooming back and forth with that, or some pans every once in a while, but by and large, it's just he shows a room and two people talking. Stanley Kubrick wants to. I think he was the one who said he thought he basically thought you should do an establishing shot, and it should be perfectly composed, and the camera should almost never move.
Well,
The camera should just stay there
Yeah.
and let you see a perfectly composed scene, and that's amazing.
There's a Japanese director, a contemporary and a little bit predecessor and contemporary of Kurosawa, named Ozu.
Yeah.
And if his camera moves once in one of his movies, it's unusual. And what it is he said, like, he sets his camera at the height of someone kneeling on a tatami mat, and that's it. You are literally just an observer. And I don't love him the way I love Kurosawa, but that's the American in me. Kurosawa is more accessible to Western audiences, blah, blah, blah. But I agree with everything you just said. But for example, imagine the scene in Second Breakfast Nation. I want you to imagine it too. Imagine the scene in Annie Hall. The famous scene where she's like, "Do you love me?" And he's like, "Do I love you?" I have to make up new words. I loathe you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Right? And think about how close you get to the characters in that moment. There is not a single close-up in that scene. They are standing on the roof of a building, I think, or they're in silhouette. And yet,
think about that scene in Manhattan where they're sitting by the Brooklyn Bridge. I mean, it's the famous shot, but you hear their conversation. You never see their lips move.
Yes.
Or the shot in the museum. You're seeing what they're experiencing.
Yes.
Yeah, and
shot by anybody else, you're gonna get at least one close up in that scene.
So bring it back to gore.
Yeah. So things like, no matter what you think of the movie The Ruins, no matter what you think of the movie American Werewolf in London, or the original Dawn of the Dead, or Shaun of the Dead, these are movies that
the gore is so effective
that you can tell, even if you're not sure. Yes, agreed. It's so effective. And even if you can't tell, I'm not sure why I'm watching someone get ripped limb from limb, or why are there Nazi demons shooting this guy's family in a dream sequence in a movie called American Werewolf in London. I don't get it. But you can tell that there is a point behind it.
Yep.
And with a movie like the Dawn of the Dead remake, you can tell there isn't. You just can. You can tell there is no point to it. Except what you just said, look what we can do.
I don't like gore for gore's sake.
Right.
Yeah. I don't like gore, actually. I don't even like it when it's good. I mean, I don't. That's why, like, when I talk about which ones I like, it's like, oh, I really liked The Conjuring. I don't know if I'd go that far. I know that it was really good.
Sure.
Will I ever watch it again? Because there's such a Catholic, because there's such a spiritual Christian element to it, I might actually watch it again.
Sure.
Like, I got crazy, like, is anyone else seeing this? There's like they bring their own crosses and the demons don't like them. This movie is so explicit. I love it. But you know, there's something about the gore itself that really, I guess. Okay, so here's the deal. And I'm glad you brought Alfonso Cuarón into this statement as well, actually.
Very, very quickly, I want to hear what you have to say, but I need to interrupt. You could ask your question. You have or have not seen The Exorcist?
I have, but I was a teenager. I actually am going to watch it again, I think, this week, just to get back in the swing.
There are moments you will not like, even though that is clearly an explicitly religious horror movie.
Sure.
Because of gore and things that happen to people's bodies. But,
right.
Sorry,
but that's okay. There's all sorts of things I don't like in movies that I like, and that's fine.
Sure.
I mean, but what I wanted to say, is I was watching. We're not going to talk about what happens in Gravity today, although I think we need to do a Gravity podcast soon.
Sure.
But there's a way that he could have made that movie nihilistic.
Okay.
And I think it would have been very easy.
Yep.
And he didn't.
Sure.
And the reason I bring and I think there's a way he could have. I mean, both Gravity and Children of Men flirt with the possibility of being nihilistic stories.
Yep.
And then utterly aren't.
Yes.
Then most decidedly become modern, postmodern, or whatever you want to call it, modern day myths.
Yes.
That are trying to tell a story that has significance and is not nihilistic. The reason I bring that up in this conversation is gore can be horror movies that I don't like feel nihilistic. When it's
Sure.
just everybody dies and you got to watch it. Look,
Right.
how dark and creepy can I get
Right.
for its own sake?
Right.
It's exhausting. To quote the dude, he's a nihilist. He doesn't care about anything. That sounds exhausting. And that's how I feel. Like, oh my gosh, like there wasn't any reason for it. And like horror movies can be utterly, I mean, like, gosh, there's something almost existentialist about how just deadeningly nihilistic they can be. Because quite often the moral of their story is everything's terrible and everybody dies. But
Right.
I love, and what I'll say is that was not the case. Both what I'll say good and bad about Woman in Black. Woman in Black most decidedly wasn't nihilistic.
That's right. That's right.
That being said, I don't think that it earned its ending. And that was, I don't think it earned what I thought the ending was. A very cool ending.
Sure.
Would have been a better ending it would have been a better ending if the movie was better. Like they could have. What I mean is they could have used the exact same ending, and it would have been
Right.
more effective had the way they
Gotcha.
built it up.
I gotcha. Yeah,
His
I
relationship with his son, for instance,
is not explored enough for the ending to work.
at all.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So I think that's a tough thing, but I think it's a really good example of a movie that uses scares for scares. And I'd like to see what this director does in the future.
Sure. Here is why you liked it less than I did. And it's about expectations. I've seen more horror movies than you. So when I say that was a solid horror movie,
There are so many. It is a genre rife with bad films.
that's right. That's right.
I think we're
good.
stick a fork in this conversation.
It's true. It's true.
And
Shall we
move on to the. Well, Andy, we've got a mailbag.
So we got two great questions. One. Well, neither.
Phenomenal.
Neither are. Well, one has a Halloween tie-in, I'll say, and
Okay.
so let's start with that one. And I would like if you would not mind to not only read the question, I would like to at least throw out the first answer for this question.
Andy, it would be my honor if you would do so.
So, okay, from good friend of the podcast, Andrew Thurmond.
And if you people think that we actually have a hierarchy of friendships to the podcast, you are correct. We do.
100%.
And it's very easy to get into our good graces.
That's right. That's right. Some people, if you're listening to my voice, some people we like better than you. But Phil, how do they get us to like them better than these other people?
Andy, there's several ways. One of the ways is to participate in our show by sending in emails, mailbag questions, ideas, gauntlets, participating with us. This should be an interactive experience to the degree that I want to, only to the degree that I want it to be, and then no more.
Sure. Where should they send these mailbag questions to?
secondbreakfastpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes, secondbreakfastpodcast@gmail.com.
To where shall they send these questions? Secondbreakfastpodcast@gmail.com. That's no numbers, no capitalizations, no dots, no hyphens, no underscores. Just secondbreakfastpodcast@gmail.com.
There is a dot between Gmail and com, but you
when I
got
say
already.
dot, you can put a dot there. Otherwise, no extraneous, no extraneous dots, people.
Indeed.
Another way that people can become friends of the podcast is by evangelizing about us.
Yes.
Literally, spread the good news of how fun we are to listen to and watch.
Yes, tell people to like us on Facebook.
And more so, I'm like, just get people in on this thing.
Because, I mean,
Momentum,
we're awesome.
people. Momentum.
And we're awesome. We're awesome because we're awesome. But we're also awesome.
But go ahead.
Well, we're also awesome because I kind of like this nation we're building. You know what I mean? Like, I like this nation.
Let's be clear. We aren't even in our prime yet.
Oh, God, no. No, absolutely
We're so
not.
far from peaking from what we're capable of doing. This is just, y'all, if you like us now, wait till the training wheels come off is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Okay, Thurman, what's Thurman's question?
Alrighty. Who survives more in movies, guys or girls? I was watching a movie recently with a friend, and she brought up how glad she was that the woman survived and that the man did not, because she said that, and I quote, The women always die and men are always survivors. I thought this was absurd, but I also have never given it much thought. What do y'all think? Andrew, I agree it is absurd, and your movie-watching companion has clearly never watched a horror movie in her life.
Or
ever.
Almost any movie, really.
That's right. That's right.
I wouldn't hang out with that girl again unless she's going to get her head straight. She sounds like someone who's looking for problems where there are none.
Right. If this was a date, Andrew, you could do better.
Seriously, don't marry down. Don't marry down. Don't do what my wife did.
Yeah, indeed.
Here's the thing. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Clearly more men die in movies. Just clearly. And part of it is our culture, that there is something horrific to us about seeing a woman die.
Right.
For men especially, it's very bothersome.
Yeah.
But a man dying can be incredible. A woman dying is always horrific.
Yes.
A man dying can quite often be satisfying for an audience.
And that's, I mean, let's be honest. There's a touch of sexism in that as well. That like a woman can't have like a. It's
not a
noble
touch.
Death.
It's not a touch.
Sure.
It's an incredibly sexist thing we're talking about right now, and it may change in the next generation.
Sure.
So what I find interesting is that woman was probably speaking from a feminist point of view of thinking that women are treated like trash in movies, but the reality is women are exploited in many ways in movies. They're terribly treated in movies, but killing them is not generally the way we have
they're exploited in other ways.
Culturally, we find it acceptable to exploit women for their looks. Well, mainly just for their looks.
Right.
Women's value comes from their looks and their fertility in historically male-driven culture.
Yes.
But killing a woman, beating a woman, hurting a woman is considered bad in almost every situation. Killing a man, there's something like, watch a movie like Taken.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Thousands of people, well, not thousands, but dozens of people die, all of them men. One girl gets remotely kidnapped. It's all bad what happens to her.
Or her friend. But that's like...
But they don't... But the idea, that's... Yes. Come on.
No, that is not an exception that is an exception
want
that
a
proves
list.
the rule.
I want a list from this woman. The burden of proof is on her.
Yes, it's true. Look, there is a hierarchy. The thing that never dies in a movie. The dog. Right? The pet. Okay?
And when you kill a dog, you are a bad person.
Right? Case in point isn't even a dog. Okay, so you've got the dog out jumping the explosion in Independence Day in the not subway but the tunnel. And then you've got Alien, where she goes back for the if there was any chance of me being a cat person instead of a dog person,
nope.
It ended when Ripley goes back for that freaking cat. Are you kidding me?
The cat is responsible for so many deaths in that movie.
Oh, so many. But cat is fine. As a matter of fact, the cat is arguably the most healthy and happy survivor of the entire series.
It's true.
And so that's the inviolate, I can only think of a handful of movies and none off the top of my head where they kill the pet. And then you've got kids of either gender, really.
It's true.
And then you have women. And then way at the bottom where everything is fine and it's like trampling grass underfoot, you have men.
Yeah. And that's okay. I'm not complaining.
No. That part of it isn't a complaint.
It's
the rest
just
of it
the
is a
truth.
complaint. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean...
I don't even know what... Andrew, I don't know who this person is.
Yeah.
Tell them to get it together.
Right. Don't marry down.
Get it together.
Yes. I mean, that's good. I think we're good. I think we're moving on.
Point proven.
Yeah. Very, 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 very good. Excellent friend of the podcast.
It's true.
Allison. How you doing,
Allison? One of the BFFs of the podcast.
Totally. BFFOP. Yes.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah. Hey, guys. I'll admit that I'm way behind on your podcast. Okay, let me stop you there, Allison. These two questions have been sitting in our mailbag for a while because we missed a couple of Fridays, and we're sorry about that, and blah, blah, blah. But I will assume, Allison, that you have taken this mailbag hiatus to catch up on all of our podcasts.
I think it's funny because, first of all, we just said how great you were.
Right.
You need to live into that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
Live your dream.
The bar. You set the bar. Now live up to it, kiddo.
That's right.
But here's the deal. But here's the deal. I've heard people say like, "Oh, I don't get to listen to every single one, and then I feel like I need to catch up." No, guys, if you miss a radio show, just listen to the next one.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's not that big of a deal.
That's
like
right.
we do this twice a week. We used to do it 5 days a week. The point is, to some degree, we're expendable, and that's okay.
Yes.
Like, on one hand, it's like we have great episodes, and we have fun, and everything we say is incredibly important, and someone should be writing it down in gold. On the other hand, dude, just listen to a show. Don't worry about all that stuff. Come
Right.
on.
Come
on.
Look at it this way. You got 2 podcasts, and you missed the first one. I would rather you listen to or watch the second one than neither.
This is a problem with our culture that we think it's because of the way we've gotten into serialized television and,
That's right.
and,
That's
and
right. It's the
DVRs.
Sopranos and
You
Breaking
missed
Bad's
the second.
fault.
You missed the second episode.
You're
done. I can't watch anymore.
You're done.
Because I'm not going to know what's going on. This
That's
isn't
right.
that. This harkens back to the good old days. Just jump on in any old time.
That's right.
Now you haven't still gotten to the question she asked, by the way.
That's true. Happy days, if you will. See what I did there?
do
They were
see what you did there.
They were happy days, and it was a non-serialized television show. I'll admit that I'm way behind in your podcast, so you guys may have already covered this, but really curious to hear your thoughts on the criticism being thrown around about Gravity and its less than factual moments. I have no doubt that we'll cover this more in depth. You're right, Phil. We do need to do a Gravity-centric podcast soon. But I love the film, and even though I left thinking that some of that probably wasn't 100% fact-check, it didn't bother me. Where is the line between fact and fiction, and does it matter? I'm going to guess that we have different answers for this question.
We might not.
Interesting.
I mean, do you want me to go first just so we can see what happens?
Entirely up to you.
Okay. Go first.
Okay.
I want to shock you.
There is no line. There's no line. I don't care. I almost wouldn't care if it were a documentary. The only thing that matters to me in terms of fact or fiction is, do I believe it? That's it. And that I'm about to be so pretentious.
You're already there.
I appreciate that. Whether I believe something or not has nothing to do with fact. It has to do with truth. Alfonso Cuarón finds truth in every moment of Gravity, even when the facts are a little bit fuzzy. I certainly,
All you did.
I want to say more, but that's my answer. So please.
In the words of Colonel Jessup, all you did was weaken a country today, Andy. No. No, here's the deal. I don't agree with you when it comes to nonfiction portrayals.
Right.
If you're calling something a true story, then freaking be a true story.
Okay.
I feel very strongly about that.
I
and
know
in fact,
you do, and I love
and
you,
in fact,
and I
like
still
I
disagree.
watched. That's fine. I watched Rush the other day. It was a good movie, and then I found out there were things that weren't true about it, and I was like, why? Just come on, Ron. Just tell the movie. Tell the story. If the story is so great, then tell it, or it's not that great. It bothers me, but it doesn't bother me at all with fiction.
Right.
And especially because a couple reasons. One is nobody knows the science. Come on. I mean, there are people who do. There is a 1% of the population that does. Okay?
Yep.
Probably less than 1% of the population, if we're being honest.
Yep.
And that's fine. But as you just said, you brought up something that is exactly where I was going to go with it, Andy. When you got super pretentious, you were just scraping you were just the tip of the iceberg for how pretentious I wanted to be. So don't worry about it. No, it is utterly the difference. I try so hard with people to explain the difference between fact and truth.
Yep.
And I'm going to go straight to the creation stories. There's 2 of them in the Bible in Genesis. But we'll go straight to the first one. We'll go to Genesis 1. Everybody knows it. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
It's true.
And then it tells a story. And if you follow the story, we don't today believe that the earth was made in, well, some people do. I don't need to believe one way or the other about if the world, I don't need to believe one way or the other if the world was created in 7 days. Because whether or not it was created in 7 days has nothing to do with what the writer of Genesis is trying to tell me about God and the world that God created.
Yep.
That the 7 days is a perfect number. and the order of things is showing a specific development of creation, and that by making people the last thing God creates, it is saying we are the pinnacle of creation for a very specific reason, and that we're made in God's image, and there's all this language, and the fact of it isn't. It's not just that it's not even remotely the point.
Yeah.
And go back and read, even if you're not a Christian or a Jew or whoever, like go back and go read Genesis 1 through 2 or something. Read the first creation story, and you will just be like astounded by the perfection of its molding. It is a perfectly composed story.
Sure.
True, and it is utterly true, whether it is factual or not.
Right.
And I bring that up because when I watched Gravity, I left feeling as if something perfect had been composed. And the question of whether or not it was like possible, I won't say it never entered my mind, but it never became a deciding factor about how I felt about the movie.
Yes.
Even a little bit.
Yep.
Even a little bit.
Yep.
Because it had nothing to do with it.
Right. Yes.
It was, I have not seen a movie that was more utterly, simply, primally, like, mythological and deeply about symbolism since maybe Apocalypto?
Sure.
Like because it was so single-minded in the telling of this thing.
Right.
And it is great. I really believe that this man is making, like, this is mythology. He is telling a myth, which means it is utterly about something, about every single one of us, deeply about humanity, about our existence, about our reality as people, and not just about society.
Right.
Or in fact, it's so utterly not about that.
Right. It does a remarkable job of sidestepping that, actually. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So much so that the idea that someone would be like, well, doesn't it bother you that the science? I'm like, no, because it weren't about that. Now, to be clear, if Apollo 13 had just fudged the science a bunch, I would enjoy the movie, but the movie might be diminished for me because that movie is about how the scientists figured out bringing the people down. It was an integral part of the plot. Even if if I found out that the science wasn't right in that movie, it would have bothered me because I'm like, well, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, and if I
I'm not saying it would have bothered me. Like, I'm not saying I would never watch it again.
No, sure, and that's everything you have just said is totally valid. Unsurprisingly, that last point I'm going to gently disagree with you on because we gently disagree on this point, or at least it's gentle on my side. You might hate me.
I'm violent about how stupid you are, but go ahead.
I know you are. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to make a cinematic movie, and if the science on how they got the people from Apollo 13 down is wrong, it's not like he has retroactively killed the astronauts. You know,
come on. There's something in between.
But maybe there isn't. I mean, it's
there is. I mean, it's like look.
Right, but maybe it got cut for time, or because they didn't get a take they liked. You know what I mean? Like, it isn't like there are all sorts of reasons that shots or scenes get excised from a movie. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you.
You know.
I hear you.
And then when that happens, sometimes you have to like jury rig one side or the other of that gap to fix it. I could talk about this forever, but I think I'll save it for our Gravity podcast. I will end my answer to this question with someone who is much, much, much smarter than me.
You're going to quote me on the podcast?
And almost as smart as Phil.
Okay, thank you.
The astrophysicist and preeminent scientist Neil deGrasse Tyson, who saw, and if you don't know who this is, read a book. He is also like the coolest dude around. He is just like, he is awesome. And he tweeted like at least 4 or 5 different things. It was like, this is not right. This is not right. This is another thing gravity gets wrong. And his last tweet was, but just to be clear, I loved this movie.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the thing.
If
That's
it doesn't bother Neil deGrasse Tyson, it should not bother you.
It's hard for me to take someone seriously as the coolest person ever when then say, and then they tweeted. I'm like, nope, you lost me on them being the coolest person ever then.
He's the only one.
But I understand, I understand what you mean.
He's it.
But I understand
Bee's
what you mean.
knees,
Actually,
baby.
but I understand what you're saying. And I think that's exactly right. It's like, if you can look at this and go, well, that's not technically right, and that's not technically right, this is an astounding movie, or I love this movie.
Yes.
If you don't, I actually don't care if people don't love Gravity.
Right.
But understand that the scientific inaccuracy in that movie is so, the science of the movie is so beside the point.
Yes. Yep.
It's not the point.
That's right. That is right.
So this is a movie that does, for me, I mean, I feel like it's timeless already. I just feel like it's a movie that I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I feel like 50 years from now, Gravity will be something people will want to watch. And that excites me.
Me too. Nice. Well said. I'm done. I think I'm spent. Andrew, Allison, thank you so much for your questions. Andrew, hang out with other people. You just hang out with other people. But folks, that'll bring us to the end of the mailbag and the end of another week of Second Breakfast Podcast. It has been a lot of fun. We hope you've enjoyed it. Not as much as we've enjoyed it. I both know you haven't and also hope you haven't because I am selfish.
It's true.
I am. It's true. And that'll do it. Enjoy your weekend. See a bunch of movies. Be awesome. It's getting cold. You don't want to go outside anyway. And we will see you again next week. But for now, for Second Breakfast Podcast, I'm Andy Roth, and that is Phil Duvall. See you again next week. Bye-bye.
Adios.